There you go. The lady just confirmed it. Um, and Ed, I want to welcome Ed Strenk. He's CPCH Principal at Human Potential Pathways. And personally, I can say I know Ed. I used to work with Ed. Ed was a sales director at our company. And during the all employee meetings, people would go to the all employee meeting just for Ed. If they thought Ed was going to be there, they were coming. So Ed is amazingly fun to work with and amazingly fun to listen to, highly motivational. When he came on board at Excelis Technologies, they improved sales immediately and brought in customers that we never had before. Ed has a way with people that is just pretty amazing. So Ed is going to help us all with leadership and how that's all going to work for your careers, in particular, improving leadership by improving yourself. So Ed, I'll turn it over to you. I also have you as being able to share screen now if you are ready.
Okay, I think everybody can see my screen.
Welcome.
Thumbs up, you got it?
And I will keep an eye on chat for tonight. If anyone has any questions, just pop them in the chat window. Or every so often, Ed, you can stop and say, any questions or whatever. That's fine too. And everyone should have their printout, by the way, which I did put that link in chat. That's the link to the printout. So be ready with that. That's it. All right. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Kenny. It's a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
You're
So
awesome.
as you can see, the title is Improving Leadership by Improving Yourself. And that's all really accomplished by being the best version of yourself as a manager. So if I were in your shoes, I'd probably have a couple of questions. First one would be, who is this Ed Strenk guy? I mean, Kenny told you a little bit. Where did he get this stuff that he's going to present? And finally, do you have to participate in what we're going to be doing tonight? So the first one is, who is this Ed Strenk guy? So the first thing is I have an admission. I am a recovering salesperson. So I was a salesperson for many years. I retired in August of 2009 as the VP of Sales Excellence for Excelis. I also did coaching and sales for Dell and also worked as the Director of Sales Excellence at Varian. And as I was telling a couple of people up front, being in the sales organization, it was amazing to me how supply chain pulled so many rabbits out of their hat in order to support the sales effort. So many kudos to all of you on this call. Yep. And as John said, we don't even know how we did it. I don't know how you did it either, but you did it and it supported sales. So I thank you very much for all your efforts. So I am an international certified human potential coach, and I got certified by this organization called the Human Potential Institute. And what my business is about values-based coaching. And essentially what that means is I work with people just like you on building what I call a life work roadmap. And essentially it's 3 questions. So what is it that you long for in your personal and professional life? What values are going to guide you to get there to what it is that you long for? And then finally, probably the most important question is, how can you operationalize your values on a daily basis to ensure that you're living the life that you want to support both the people in your personal relationships as well as the people that you work with. Now, I'd just like to tell you that in working with my clients, usually I'll spend anywhere from 8 to 10 hours working with them on their life work roadmap. We're going to do a speed drill tonight that I think would be very, very helpful for you going forward. So just keep that in mind. We're going to move along really, really fast. So what is the purpose of this exercise? If you're like me, you probably had some managers and some leaders that you worked for that one day they're cold, one day they're hot, one day they're grumpy, The other day, they're happy. Well, I don't know about you, but when I was working for those kinds of individuals, it was really chaotic and confusing. And I know for a fact that for many of the people I work with, their thoughts were the same because you don't know what to expect from that manager or leader. So the whole idea of this concept is if you can have a list of values that you live by, what will happen is your work environment will be much less chaotic because people will know what behavior to expect from you on a daily basis. So that takes people from being in a chaotic environment to being in a much calmer environment, which makes for a great working environment. So the next question is, do you have to participate? I hope you do, but that's totally your call whether you want to do that or not. So let's get started on the journey a little bit. So first thing I'd like to do, by the way, if you happen to be in a vehicle or you're driving, do not do this exercise. So what I'd like to do is a little exercise. It's a breathing exercise that I learned when I was at Dell at a leadership conference. It's called box breathing. And I was mentioning to a couple of people prior to everybody being on the call, we have a son who was in the Marines and he's in flight school right now. And they taught him this breathing. They call it tactical breathing. It was one of the first things that they learned in the Marines basic school. So here's what it involves. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on it. I still use this exercise on a daily basis. I did it before I got on this call. So if you're comfortable, what you do is you close your eyes. And this methodology is pretty simple. What you do is you breathe in 4 through your nose. Then what you do is you hold for 4 seconds. Then you breathe out through your mouth for 4 seconds. Then you hold for 4 seconds. And then you just repeat 4 in through the nose, hold for 4, 4 out through the mouth, and then you hold for 4 and then repeat. So we're going to do this just for 2 minutes. And what I'd be interested in knowing is how you feel afterwards. But let's do the exercise first. So I have a timer. You don't have to worry about that. And if you're comfortable, again, close your eyes because the experience will be much better for you. So whenever you're ready, you can begin. I'll start the timer. Again, you could be sitting or you could be standing. And why don't we do 2 more breaths, 2 more rounds. So now in the chat box, I have 2 questions. So need a 1-word answer for each one of these questions. So just in the chat box, how do you feel physically? 1 word. And then how do you feel mentally? 1 word.
I'll read the answers to you, Ed.
That'll be great.
I can tell you mine right off the bat is calmer and definitely more focused.
Okay.
Yep. Calm and clear, relaxed, calm, open, relaxed, and relaxed. Relaxed, calm, focused. Seems like the fog may have been lifted. Same calm and focused, relaxed and clear. Feel more alert, relaxed. 1, 2, clear here and now. Relaxed and peaceful, focused, calm, alert. I love
Wow.
it. That is good stuff. This is military, right?
It is military. The military calls it tactical breathing. And then the name for it, generally speaking, is just box breathing because you're doing that box. And I have to tell you that I use this all the time, like before a big meeting. I used to have to go to a lot of board meetings, and they were very, very tense and very anxiety filled. And just doing that for a couple of minutes, even in the board meeting, because you could do this breathing and nobody's even noticing that you're doing it. And you don't have to have your eyes closed. So this is just something I learned in a leadership workshop at Dell that I find extremely useful in very stressful situations. So thanks for those comments in the chat box. Appreciate it very much. So I take it we're all relaxed and ready to go. So let's go on to section 1. And if you look on that handout, you'll see that life work roadmap. The first section there is the self-assessment. So if you did the self-assessment already, that's good. What you may want to do is go back and see if you change any of the scale numbers that you did originally. So I'm going to read these statements to you. And then what you're going to do is you're going to rank them as least true or most true on a scale of 1 to 10. So you could have a 6, let's say, a 5, 4, whatever. So the first one is I have a clear vision for who I want to be as a person. So 1 is least true and 10 is most true. So scale yourself on that statement. Next, I know in what kind of environments I can thrive. And again, that's either personal or work environments. Scale yourself there. 1 is least true, 10 is most true. Next, I have a clear vision for my ideal love relationship. Scale yourself there. I know exactly how much money I want to earn, and most importantly, why. Again, 1 is least true, 10 is most true. Next, I am fully satisfied with my current level of health. Where do you stand there? Next, I am fully satisfied with my current level of fitness, which obviously is a little different than health. Where do you scale yourself? Next, my career is very fulfilling and I love what I do. I can tell you, I love what you guys do. Next, I have a strong sense of how I would like my life to unfold in the upcoming years. And then the next one, probably one of the most important ones, I respond more than I react in stressful situations. And by respond, I mean you actually think before you answer, rather than just react from your ego. Now, there aren't any right answers, any wrong answers, but what I would ask you to do is to pay attention to the ones that you scored the lowest. as we go through the rest of the exercise, specifically the next question. So the next question is, what is it that you long for? And again, focus on what you had as your lower scores. Now, what I have here is an example, and a client of mine gave me permission to use this. This client happens to be a chief marketing officer. And what he longed for, both personally and professionally, was more fulfillment and simultaneously ongoing balance, trusting instincts to move forward. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a lot being written in leadership about being able to trust your instincts, or what people are saying, your gut, because research, science-based research is saying by following your gut or your instincts, you're going to be right a lot more than being totally analytical about everything. Sometimes you just have to trust your gut. The next, he says, I want a concrete plan, where, what, and something new, cool to work on and grow into. Next, a new adventure, living in a new area and learning something new. The next, this client wanted to lose 20 pounds. And finally, he wanted to advance to the next level professionally. So now what I'm going to ask you to do in that template is to write down a couple of things, maybe 2 or 3 things that you really long for or dream for in your life professionally or personally. Now, what I did is I added these categories here because you can have maybe something that you long for related to your health, related to your fitness, related to your relationships, your quality of life. You know, this whole idea of work-life balance has become increasingly important since the pandemic, with, you know, having 90 Zoom meetings every week. Maybe you might have what it is that you long for related to your finances. You might have something related to your emotional state or your social state, or maybe intellectually. Maybe there's a course that you really long for, that you dreamed about, that you wanted to take, that you haven't gotten to yet. Or maybe it's something related to your career, where you want to go in your career. So what I'm going to do is to allow you to take a couple of moments just to jot down a couple of bullets on what it is that you really long for or dream for in your life, personally or professionally. And these are the most common categories that most of my clients have used in the past. And we'll give you 1 more minute. Thirty seconds. And we have 5 seconds. Now, what I would ask, is there anyone brave enough in this audience who would care to share what it is that they put down for what it is they really long for?
You want them to do it verbally or in the chat?
Sure, let's do it verbally. Let's step out on a limb. Let's be adventurous.
I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I wrote, so I'll jump in. Time to breathe, i.e. work-life balance.
Yeah.
I don't have that at all. And that's short term, and then long term would be healthy and retired with no debt. That's long term.
That's exactly what we're looking for. And again, there's no right, there's no wrong. It's very personal. And it's really dependent on what it is that you see in your life at the moment and how you scored on that self-assessment that we did earlier. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it, Kenny. All right. So with, yes.
Yeah, I like to go with the health and fitness there. I think everybody at the age of 63, and if you want to live to 83, you got to keep really start taking control of your life and making sure that your health and you're fit, not overweight, keep your exercise in motion. Need be if you could run. I walk. I don't want to run, but and that should also improve your quality of life in many ways. And obviously, if you're financially sound, you can entertain a fulfilled retirement. And while you're doing it, you read some books or read whatever you can to improve your intellectual capability. That's basically where I see myself. Emotional, social, the career stuff, whatever.
Yeah.
My relationships, I'm not worried about that. That's
All
right.
right. That's great, Larry. And Larry, I couldn't agree with you more. The whole idea nowadays is, people talk about the health span versus lifespan. When you're in your 80s, right? You want to be living a life where you're moving around, you're playing with the grandkids and things like that. So it's no more about this lifespan, it's about your health span. So Larry, you hit the nail on the head there. Thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it.
Ed,
All right.
I think you subscribe to that in particular, because I know every day on LinkedIn, if you connect to Ed on LinkedIn, he does a video on what today's exercise is to help you get centered, to be a good leader, to be a better better person. So
Yeah. Well, thanks for that. I appreciate it very much, Kenny.
yeah,
It's
we love
fun
those.
doing the videos, and I'm getting such good feedback from people that it just makes me want to do it even more and more. And it's just so much fun. So now we're on the section 3 in the template. So now that you have what it is that you long for, the next question is, what values are going to guide you there? So to have, let's say, a primer, I would ask you to answer these questions first. And again, I'll give you a moment or two to jot down your answers to these questions. Again, these are on your template. So what qualities do you admire most in others? And again, take a moment just to jot down a couple of bullets. What qualities do you admire most in others? Second question, bring to mind a leader or even a manager you respect. What qualities do you find most inspiring for you? And you could jot down a couple of bullets. The next, to live a happy and fulfilled life, what values are most important? And again, this is a happy and fulfilled life personally and professionally. What values are most important? The next question, what I would like you to reflect on is, what qualities do your friends and coworkers admire in you? What qualities do your friends and coworkers admire in you?
On that one, is that something that what you think they are, or maybe because they want to say it to your face, well, this guy's a pain in the ass, or you know, or talks too much. Ooh, that's me, I guess. But I have to assume it really be, you really have to be open to your own.
You got it right, Larry. I wouldn't add anything to it. Yeah, it's which ones do you think that they admire in you? And then the final one is, if you could pass on 3 qualities or values to your children, your grandchildren, to your direct reports, to your coworkers, what would they be? Three qualities or values that you'd like to pass on to your children, your direct reports, or your coworkers. So now, with that as a primer, what we'll do is we'll move on to the next piece. So the question is, what values will guide you to what it is that you long for? Now, again, I'll go back to this example from the chief marketing officer. And he said the values that would guide him towards what it is that he longs for would be fitness, self-control, forgiveness, humility, and then finally, humor. So if you look back on what you wrote to your answers for these questions, and I'll put some more values up here. These are ones I commonly see from my clients. Feel free to use those. Feel free not to use those. But what I'm going to ask you to do is to jot down in that work-life template or life-work template 3 to 5 values, no more than 7, that will guide you to get to what it is that you really long for in your life professionally and personally. And I'll give you 1 more minute. 3 to 5, no more than 7. And just about 20 seconds. And now, both Kenny and Larry, if you don't mind, since you shared with us what it is that you long for or dream for, would you mind sharing what values you chose?
Well, where I work, I remember, I don't know if you remember George Carino, but he always said, we're going to work hard, but we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
So I have trust. You could always trust what my boss said. He didn't sling anything. He was fun. He was patient most of the time. Respect is critical for your people that you work with or that work for you. And curiosity, because if you weren't curious to figure out how you could do something a different way, you would keep doing it the same way all the time, and it might never get better. Process improvement, et cetera, et cetera. So I just picked 5 off the top of my head. I don't know. What do you think, Larry?
Yeah, those are pretty good. I got a couple of those. I put in there trust. I also have kindness, I put in generosity, creativity, you know, I think that kind of goes a long way.
Mhm.
Love, you know.
Yeah, so speaking of curiosity, Larry, I'm curious as to why you chose that word, that value, kindness.
Well, kindness, you know what it is? I live with a woman who is absolutely always helping out everybody, you know, it's like, so I feel if I have to try to parallel her any way possible, that would be the one way to try to, she's always helping people. I think if when I retire, I'll probably try to see if I could join a, volunteer group where, you're out there, whatever you're doing to try to help people. A lot of times, people when they're emotionally stressed out or whatever, they may need somebody, a comforting person to make them laugh or say a few words or not think about their troubles. I find myself trying to do that now and then to, just make a little fun, and it goes a long way. Whether people don't realize that. When somebody reaches out and tries to say something funny or it just tries to make you feel comfortable, you feel much better. And
Yeah,
it can be simple stuff. I could actually throw out the bucks there at the end of the year for your charities too. That helps. But that's basically the choice.
yeah. Excellent. Thank you. Now, for the rest of the crew, what I would ask you to do, again, if you want to, and Kenny will read them to us, would you please put in just two of what you think are the most important values that you have on your list? So go into the chat box, write down what you think are the two most important values that you have in your list. And Kenny, if you can work your magic, please.
Yeah. Authenticity and patience, self-care and compassion, respect and responsiveness, respect and trust. I see respect a lot. That's a good one. Kindness and dedication, self-awareness, generosity, spirituality and trust, compassion and curiosity. Love it. Respectful, helpfulness, kindness and trust. I think that's it.
All right. Excellent. Guys
Good
are doing
stuff.
great. Yeah,
Oh, there was one
really
more.
good.
One more. Adventure, discovery, and nature. All right, now I'll mute myself. I'm muted. I'm muted.
All right, the next question, which is the final question, is how will you operationalize your values? Now, I'm sure that most of you have been in a situation like I have been in multiple companies where a company has a set of what they're calling their core values. They're up nice on the cafeteria wall. There are little placards through the hallways. People are giving out cards with the company's values on them. But the only thing is, nobody ever talks about them in meetings. Nobody ever holds people accountable to those values. And if they do, it's a very rare situation that I heard somebody actually holding a group or an individual accountable to a specific company value. So that's where at companies, those things fall apart dramatically. Just like strategic planning, again, worked for many companies. We work our bottoms off on getting together a strategic plan, spend hours and hours doing it. It gets done, it gets put in a desk, and then nobody ever looks at it again. It's the same with the values. So with the values, we don't want that to happen in your personal life or your professional life. So this next piece is how will you operationalize your values? So the first thing is you need to have concrete actions that go along with your values. Now, these are some random ones I pulled from my clients, And again, they gave me permission to use these. So one of them is verbally say, lighten up during moments of stress. That's a concrete action. And I can actually observe that in somebody. Laugh at myself once per day and not feel foolish doing it. Walk for 30 minutes each day. Trust my intuition. Listen to my heart. Again, there's so much being said, so much science-based research that says trusting your intuition, trusting your heart, trusting your gut is the way to go. Next one, always be building. Have an active creative project in works at all times and dedicate time every weekend to it. Again, that's something that's observable. That's a concrete action. Use loving kindness meditation. Again, there are so many different kinds of meditation. This person happened to choose loving kindness meditation weekly to project feelings of forgiveness to people I still carry negative feelings for and hold grudges. Next one, this person said, I want to take a cold shower for 2 minutes to start every day. Now, that may seem a little frightening to you, but that's something that I do on a daily basis and have been doing for close to 3 years. And again, if you have any interest in that, my only recommendation to you is to start slow. By starting slow, take your regular shower, and at the end of your shower, turn it to cold for like 10 seconds to start off with. And within a couple of weeks, you'll find out that you've progressed to taking your entire shower in a cold shower. And then finally, this one here, take 1 conscious breath per hour. As simple as in through the nose, out through the mouth. And you'd be surprised what a difference that'll make in your day. So these are concrete actions taken from my clients. So what I would ask you to do is to now jot down a couple of concrete, observable actions that you think you could do to hold yourself accountable to your 3 to 5 to no more than 7 values. And again, I'll give you a moment to construct some of those. Again, try and make these as observable actions. So if I happen to be having a camera on you 24/7, I would be able to observe that you're laughing at yourself once per day, that you're taking a conscious breath every hour, that you're taking a cold shower, that you're doing meditation. So try and make them as actionable as possible. And also try and make them as reasonable as possible, especially when you're starting out with these actions. So for example, don't say you're going to meditate every day for 30 minutes because it's not going to happen.
Ed, what does the cold shower do?
So a cold shower, Larry, thanks for, or
No,
who
it's
asked?
Chaz.
Oh, okay, Chaz. So here are the benefits of a cold shower. So if you take a cold shower on a daily basis, first of all, what you'll be doing is you'll be building what's called brown adipose tissue or brown fat. Now, the benefit of building brown fat in your body is that as children, we had a lot of brown fat. But by the time we're 30 years old, we've pretty much eliminated all that brown fat and turned it into what's called white fat, the stuff we don't want in our body. Well, the idea with brown fat, and the reason you see kids out in the winter without gloves, without, coats on, without jackets, without hats, is because brown adipose tissue is a great insulator. And what that does, in addition to that, is brown fat eats white fat. So it dissolves it. So if you're looking to get rid of some, let's say your white fat in areas that you don't like, the best way to do that is through nutrition and building brown fat. The next thing with cold exposure is that it builds your immune system. And how does it build your immune system? By putting stress on your body for a period of time. And then what happens is what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And it's the same with heat. So let's say going in a sauna. So what you're doing is you're stressing your body momentarily. Your immune system recognizes that. And then when it's done with that stressor, it actually builds up your immune system even more. And Chaz, one of the most incredible things that happened to me with cold exposure is I had major league allergies. And after doing cold exposure for about 2 weeks, they were completely gone. I haven't had them since. I was popping allergy pills all the time. I don't have allergies anymore. So that's another byproduct of that. And then the other thing, it's great for your sleep. Even though you're doing it in the morning, it's really going to help you stay asleep, and it's going to increase your deep sleep significantly.
Is the morning, there's some trick to have it in the morning versus the night?
No, actually, I have a lot of clients who do it at night, like an hour before they go to bed. So what it does is it puts your body under that stress. So you're in fight or flight. But then once your body recognizes that, okay, this was just a temporary thing. It was just, a saber-toothed tiger trying to get me, but I ran away from it. But after your body recognizes that, it then goes back into the rest and digest state, or the parasympathetic nervous system, which will help you sleep at night. The reason I prefer the morning is because we have tons, thousands and thousands of neurotransmitters in our head and in our face. And so it's just a great way to really start off your day and feel just alive and ready to go. So I prefer the morning versus the evening, but I do have a lot of clients who do it in the evening as well.
All right. Well, I might try it. Sounds tough.
Chaz, I'm telling you, it is tough at first. That's why I'm saying do it 10 seconds. I played the idiot and I did a cold shower for 2 minutes the first time I did it. And I live in Ryan, New Hampshire, and I think people in Seabrook, New Hampshire could hear me screaming because it was really painful. But now we live right across the street from the ocean in Rye, and I go in the ocean in the winter every month.
Well, I've seen people do that. I guess I always thought there was something wrong with them.
There are actual science-based research to show the benefits of, it's called DCE, deliberate cold exposure, or you might hear the term cold thermogenesis.
But it has to be wet. Like you couldn't, I guess that's the easiest way to do it. I suppose it's hard to generate the cold without it.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of health clubs that have these, they're not wet ones. You're just going into a temperature, I think it's minus 175 degrees air, and you stay in there for 3 minutes. But I've never tried it, and it's like, I have a cold shower.
Cold shower sounds better than that.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
3 minutes, good Lord.
Yeah. But it's not, what I understand from it is it's not as intense because it's air and it's not pressing against your skin like water is, or going in the ocean.
I frequently have to go into freezers that are minus 80 at my job, and it gets cold very quickly, but you can stand it for much longer than you can cold water.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Oh. Good Lord. Yeah, Ed, I tell you, after I do a run, especially in the hot summer heat, I can't get the water cold enough in the shower. Like it just only gets so cold.
Right. Exactly. I mean, it's worth a try if you'd like to give it a shot. I really think you'll see a benefit from it right away.
I was going to say also, when you had mentioned values earlier and they put them up on the walls, like Excelis does that. I know my boss at the time had said, and I thought our boss had said that we should use our annual review, our pact, whatever you want to call it, and you have to mention those values each time.
Right.
Not for everything, but you have to make sure you mention the values at least once throughout your annual review self-appraisal, and how accountability helped you, and speed, and quality. How did that help you? And what areas did you do projects that improved those particular values? Quality being one in a different way. So, and you get points towards, each time you use the value to illustrate how you got better through the past year. So that might be a good way to tie accountability in a workplace to the values, maybe.
Kenny, that's an excellent way. And what I used to do, I would start off my staff meeting with people giving examples of how they saw one of the company values being used, or how they were able to display one of the company values. And I found that extremely helpful with the people who worked with me. So the question was simple. Okay, how did you see one of our values for the company being used, or how did you use or display one of the company's values? It takes 5 minutes. And I found that to be a very good activity to start off staff meetings.
Love it.
Yeah.
We're learning the secrets from the master.
I wish. All right, so now that you have some concrete actions, the most important part is what you do with them. So first of all, you have to visit them often. What do I mean by often? Maybe it's once a week. Maybe it's once a month. You have to decide what's right for you. But to actually look at them periodically and say, am I really living these values? Now, a lot of my clients, what they will do once they have their values finalized, again, personal and professional, they will actually share them with the people who work for them. And that's them opening up and being vulnerable to their employees to say, you know what, this is how I really want to lead my work life. And here's how you can expect me to be acting going through the rest of the time we spend together working together. Not all of them do that. And I'm not saying you have to do that, but if you're in a position where you feel you can be vulnerable and share your values with your employees, man, it opens up a whole different area. And you'll notice that what happens is people say, wow, I know what to expect now. And in a lot of cases, they'll start holding you accountable to those values. So again, it's just something to consider. Then I think the next thing is to reflect on those values about how you're doing against those values. Now, how do you do that? Well, you can do that by talking to your partner or your spouse. You can talk to a colleague about that. You can talk to a mentor about that. And it's a good way to hold yourself accountable by having that person who winds up being your accountability coach. And you could ask them, you can ask your employees, hey, 3 weeks ago, I showed you how I'm going to behave in the workplace. How am I doing? And then just shut up and listen, see what they have to say. And again, hopefully they'll be in a situation where they're being open with you and sharing what it is that you're doing that is really useful for them, and not being in sort of a chaotic environment, but a more calm environment. And then finally, I would just like to share, I'm not going to read these to you, but these are some comments that I got from people that I've coached who are in the business and who have currently either leadership or management positions. And I think the one that really stood out for me is this final one here: pushes me to create healthy habits and choose strategies to make them attainable. And that's the whole idea of this life work roadmap. And again, we went through this extremely quickly, but you can take more time, take as much time as you want, go back and refine these, work with somebody, a colleague, a mentor, to maybe refine them and get better at it. So that's what I have at the moment. And what I would like to do is to open it up for any questions.
But I was going to say also that we have the presentation and we're going to post it on the Massachusetts Minuteman website. I think I have the last version, V3, right, Ed?
Yeah, V3.
Yep. So we'll get that posted. Also in the chat window, I put 2 links just now. Now you have to copy all these links now because once the meeting ends, the chat window closes with it. It doesn't just stay open. So if you want a link for the CEU certificate or for the, oh, good Lord. If you want those 2 things, the survey as well, copy it now, copy the links now. So that'll be good. And then Susan put in a comment, new book by Karen Ross, Kind Leader. Think, speak, and act kindly. 3 kind leader practices. So that sounds like a good book.
That sounds like an excellent book, and I wasn't aware of that. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, it's in the chat window for anyone who wants to get the title off of that too.
Yeah, and actually there's a new book coming out by Michael Dell, and I had the pleasure of meeting him twice when I was at Dell. It's called Play Nice, but Win.
Ah, I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
Hey, Ed, I got a question.
Yes, Aaron.
The work from home, a lot of companies, including the one I'm at, a lot of people are now categorized as working from home in a more permanent situation or hybrid in some cases. I guess, with the, especially some of these, I would say environmental, social type environments and work where you're trying to, career advancement. I mean, I'm kind of one of those believers that getting face to face with people there's a lot of value with that, but it seems to be being diminished like before our eyes. And just wanted to just get your thoughts on, can we survive and do everything exactly the same in an environment when no one actually interacts in person anymore?
Yeah, Chaz, that's a great question and a great observation, by the way. I can tell you that my clients are struggling like hell with what you just described. And they're feeling isolated. They feel like they're being left out. And what I'm finding is over the past 2 months with this Delta variant that's going on, that people were getting better and better and better. And a lot of the companies were starting to bring people back to work. And then with the Delta variant, it's all changed again. And now what I'm finding is my clients are starting to feel they're having the same emotions that they had halfway through the pandemic. And this is a very, very difficult situation. My opinion is the more that we can be open and the more that we can be more personal in our communication with people and sharing personal things, being vulnerable with people, that's the only way we're going to be able to get through this without absolutely going insane.
Yeah, well, I get that. I honestly believe that there's going to be a mental health crisis coming that might be worse than the pandemic itself.
Chaz, I couldn't agree with you more. And what worries me the most is all these young children who went through not going to school last year. Now they're going to school. Some of them are part-time. Now they're wearing masks in school. And this is interesting, Chaz. By the time we're 7 or 8 years old, our subconscious mind is about 90% complete. The reason being is that from the age of 0 to age 7, our brains are dominated by alpha waves. And what that means for children is their brain is just in record mode. That's all they're doing, is they're recording what their parents are doing, what their community's doing, what their teachers are doing and saying to them, what their classmates are saying and doing to them. And that's horrible to think about, these kids who last year during the pandemic were so isolated.
Yeah.
They're just recording all this stuff.
Yeah. The
That's
kids, yeah. I mean, I've got kids too in school, and I definitely can see it. But I think professionally, I think where I start, I mean, I understand that we all want to be safe and eventually we'll get back in the office, but this idea that's coming out where this virtual environment is exactly the same as face to face, and people are using it as it's like on a pedestal as the same. That's where I start having an issue, because of the subconscious mind and how it works when you're actually interacting with someone physically, that I just don't think you can't rationalize it with the conscious mind.
I agree 100%. And yes, it's so true. I think we're eventually going to get to that place. But quite frankly, from all my corporate clients, I'm hearing that everything's now been delayed again. And some people are saying, well, maybe January, February.
Well, yeah, no, but some companies are actually knocking buildings down, saving money. Like, it's gone beyond the pandemic.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
it's been said, this pandemic has proved that we can operate without being in a facility.
Correct.
And sure you can, but
The
you haven't
analogy,
really set up your measurement system to really ascertain the full impact of not having people cohabitating.
yeah. I
it's
mean,
just-
my analogy is that it's like eating without tasting. Like, yes, you
Yeah.
get the job done and you'll survive, but it's not fun.
Exactly. That's pretty good.
That's a great analogy.
I think part of it is built on the lie too, that there's too much distraction at work. You go to the bathroom, you talk with your colleagues and all
That is
that.
the work.
Yeah.
I've got so many distractions at home that I can't wait to get back in the office sometimes. I've got 2 beagles at home that, if I mean, they're right here with me right now saying, what you doing? I mean, the people who say that, I go to the bathroom, I talk to my friend. I mean, don't you do the same things at home too, And I think the other issue is we tend to forget that since the first caveman looked across the hill to the other cave, we have been social animals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
10,000 years.
And we thrive in social situations. I mean,
Yeah.
how many times is sensory deprivation a torture method, And when we're isolating from, I mean, that's like the worst type of punishment in a prison is to be in solitary confinement. And we are agreeing to solitary confinement in our work life. I mean, what is this?
Yeah.
But if you go back to Ed's first example there, where he did the controlled breathing, I don't know if anybody's done any research on mindfulness and accept that whatever goes on in your head isn't always a fact.
Right.
So,
Well,
for example, like
Talks
get
about
together-
Marines. I'm a former Marine, and we did learn that type of breathing in the Marines, and it was
But
always,
beyond the breathing, if you kind of accept, okay, that you go in the workplace and you are talking. So I think Plato or somebody talked about this cave where everybody was kind of chained in there and it was just one candle and all everybody knew were shadows. The guy escapes, comes back and tells people, oh, I saw this red bird and I saw this. And they beat him to death because, he fit the norm. I think if we just start looking at some of these things and saying, how can we do it different? How can we ask nice questions to people when we're in Zoom meetings versus, hey, I want this, I want it now, and I'm going to fire you if you don't do it. It's kind of changing our mindset too. And I'm not saying being at home is a perfect world, but it sure is a learning opportunity to act differently and look at work differently.
But I was going to say also that it also depends on your situation. Like I do this all the time at Excelis. Is I will, with the Zoom meeting, put my camera on and ask the other person, hey, throw your camera on so you can make it a little more personal, like you're there. We allow networking before our meetings for a few minutes because people would do it if they were in person, they'd be chatting. And after the meeting, because people would do that if they were in person. And you have to have a good setup. This is what I This is my setup right here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah. Well, there's that piece too, the physical. But yeah, it's just gonna be.
Technically,
It's good. I mean, I think a lot of companies are thinking of this as the flexibility is drawing talent, but I'm actually wondering if it's going to be the opposite eventually.
yeah.
Certainly missed the donuts.
And the free coffee.
Well, that's the other thing though, because there are
Pizza,
people who are
right?
restricting that because of the pandemic too. But one of the things, I mean, one of the big things about a funeral, and thinking to go that route, is you have a repast afterwards, and it almost always involves food, no matter what culture you're from, and that's because the act of eating and sharing, it kind of tells you that life goes on. That certain things have to be done in order to continue the survival of the family, the species, whatever you want. And the act of eating in a social environment is one of them. And we joke about the cafeterias or anything, or the company, but how many times have ideas come up when we've just eaten a sandwich with our colleagues?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
regularly.
And by the way, Al, just to add to that, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what are called blue zones. These are areas of the world where people live the longest. And for their longevity, the number one thing is just what you said, Al. It's having community and having dinner together or having lunch together. That's the number one reason that they have these longevity genes, is because of that.
Well, we can bring on the donuts.
Seems important too is,
They're not
Yeah.
eating donuts, Chaz.
Oh yeah, they won't live.
we
that
were
long.
talking earlier about health. How much sleep are we losing versus when we were younger, like you mentioned, kids and our parents, it just try to focus on getting that 7 or 8 hours of sleep if you can.
It's almost impossible.
Yeah.
It is almost impossible, but I'll tell you, there's so much science-based research on the importance of sleep. I have this ring, it's called an Aura ring, O-U-R-A, and I started using it about 3 years ago. And my sleep, quite frankly, was shit. And I could track it. It tells me how much deep sleep, how much REM sleep, how much I was awake. But then I was able to use that data to do certain things. And now, instead of my sleep score being in the 60s and 70s, on most nights, it's in the 90s. And we all know there's a sleep epidemic in this country. And it's just horrible what it does to your mental approach, to your physical being. It's just so detrimental by not getting enough sleep.
Ed, I would say also this working from home thing. So, I mean, I love it. I want to do it forever, but that's just me. But it's so much easier to get stuff done, but it's also so much easier to stay up late. Like instead of with time zone differences of 12 hours dealing with South Korea or Singapore or China, I would send an email. They're sleeping, so they don't get it till the next day. They answer me, I'm sleeping at that point. So it's like a long chain going over multiple days versus I can just call them now. I called South Korea last night. I talked to China. That's easy and it gets solved so much faster. You're up later.
You're
Yeah.
losing sleep.
You're losing
Right.
sleep, exactly. Yep.
And by the way, there's a lot of research that is coming out, and I actually did a video on this. I think it was last week. And it's all about taking a power nap. Now, if you guys work a lot with people in Asia, you know that that's pretty common, that they'll take a 20, 30-minute nap. Well, there's a lot of science-based research saying that if you do a 20-minute power nap, 25-minute power nap during the day, every day, it will help increase your deep sleep and your REM sleep at night. Now, there's one I use all the time. It's by this person. His name is Jody, Jody Hatton, Hatton. And the title of his video is 20-minute power nap. It's on YouTube. It's free. And it uses what's called binaural, binaural, binaural beats. I swear by it. I listen to binaural beats when I go to sleep for an hour and 30 minutes. every single night. And when I wake up at 6 o'clock most mornings, I listen to it for an hour and 30 minutes in the morning. And again, tracking with my Aura Ring, it does unbelievable things to my body chemistry and my body mechanics. So again, it's that same guy, Jody Hatton. He has videos for an hour, hour 30 minutes. I swear by it. At night, an hour and 30, in the morning, an hour and 30.
And dealing with stress, and you can make your stress whatever you want it to be, getting your work done on time, having home problems or health problems. I'm thinking that in line with your power nap is find some time to do some meditation. If at all that it does is that it gets you away from the stuff that's driving your stress.
Right.
The problem with stress, one of the things is stress about having to get something done that you need to get done for whatever financial reason. It kind of like burns on you. I don't know how anybody gets around it to try to get something done at a certain time frame. It's the most timely stress. But if it's like you're driving on the road and somebody cuts you off and you're like swearing at them, all that kind of stress, eventually that goes away.
Right.
But the other one, it still stays there. How the hell
Yeah,
you do-
Larry, the most important thing, and I'll say this to everybody, and again, I'm speaking about science, not just theory. You know, it's okay to have stress like with a cold shower for a short amount of time. But the problem with the world we live in that's 24/7, 365 is we tend to have chronic stress. Now, what happens with chronic stress is it builds inflammation in your body. And again, science-based research shows that the cause of all these diseases that we're facing is inflammation caused by stress. So we're talking about cancer, we're talking about diabetes, we're talking about obesity. The major cause, chronic stress, which leads to the fact that your body is just inflamed, can't get rid of the inflammation, so it causes disease. So Larry, spot on, man. And if you can start a meditation practice that's even 5 minutes a day, the results of that will be significant over a period of time. And there are so many free apps that you can get for meditation.
Good stuff. Ed, great job, man. This is a great presentation. Thank you so much.
It was my pleasure, and I'm so grateful that you invited me into this forum. And again, I just have so much respect for what you guys do, because it's magic to me. It's like black magic. It just happened. So again, very grateful, and it was such a pleasure talking to you. And again, if you have any questions for me that come up after this, my email is on the screen. Please feel free to send me a note. If you want to take a look at my YouTube channel, that's on the screen as well, or my website.
I like your LinkedIn videos, Ed. I try to check them every day if I can.
And I compile all those from LinkedIn onto my YouTube channel. So
Oh, that's
feel free and
awesome.
have some fun with it.
Oh, that's great. So we could see history if we needed it.
That's exactly right. And they're very short, by the way, 30, 40 seconds.
Oh, that's perfect.
Thank you,
Well, thank
Ed.
you to everybody. Anything else? Go ahead.
No, I just want to thank you, Ed, for the presentations. Those are really useful. That I used to see those technique in the prevention for cancer or treatment for cancer or awareness, and kind of like affirming what I learned before that. In that, it's not only for this health is really important when for the lifestyles and all that. Will if we could have a good health, we can contribute, and then we can perform well in our work life, balance situation like that. It is really good. Thank you for the presentation. I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome, Agnes. And everything you said, I totally agree and totally believe in with all my heart.
Yeah. Thank you.
Now, one of the reasons we kind of started this PDMs virtual was a way of bringing people together. So from Boston, Central Mass, Connecticut. And I'll just toss out an idea. One thing we were hoping to do with this is bringing folks together more so than just, hey, come here for this kind of one event. And I'll toss out a crazy idea only based on what folks were saying about lunch or getting together. But no, why not? If this group would be interested, we could do a chat question here, but like a virtual wine tasting or a virtual book club, just to, hey, it's not just another Zoom meeting, but just another way to kind of bring folks together here. And that's part of, I'm going back, I've been involved with Apex for nearly 40 years, and I'm sure folks with ISCM, but the learning piece, and then the other piece is just, the networking. And that's the one thing we don't get to, like you say, sit at the table with some boiled chicken and talk about the speaker or so, but just get over it. Like I say, that's part of what we're trying to do with this whole virtual meetings here, is another way to bring folks together. And maybe, like I said, something slightly different, just, hey, a week from now or whatever, hey, let's pick up a book and talk about it or so. Any feedback from folks? Or
Well, I could tell you, John, my partner, she used to work at Applied Materials. She's retired now, but there are companies out there who will host virtual wine tasting. And when she was at Applied Materials, they did a number of them, and I was able to attend, and it was such a freaking blast.
yeah. But again,
So I would encourage you guys to consider something like that.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah.
Ken, maybe we can add to the survey this type, what we discussed or John just suggested. So
That's a great idea.
like every survey, we can have that, see what people say. So at least.
better, we all run to Dunkin' Donuts and buy our favorite donut. And Ken had good stuff earlier. Fruits and vegetables and.
Yes. There you go.
He's showing Ken is.
Wine is a fruit, right?
Wine is a fruit. Absolutely. You got it, Dad.
Fruit of the vine, but I'm not a good here.
Because he said he was going, it was crunchy and he was going to mute himself, which he did.
I did. I was muted, but I have all my stuff here.
Yeah.
Tomatoes, carrots, apples. I don't know. It's all good.
Well, Chaz, I can tell you is after this, I have dinner waiting, and I will be having a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, you enjoy your dinner, Ed, and thank you so much for doing a great job on this presentation. We're
Thank you,
gonna
Mark. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
we're gonna save the recording on the Apex ASCM Massachusetts Minuteman website. I'm gonna hit stop recording now, and the meeting is adjourned.